Welcome to the third episode of the IRL podcast. We're out here in Miami, Florida. As you can see, got the IRL Miami shirt behind me with all the boys from IRL. We're going to go around just introducing ourselves really quickly. So we'll start off with you, Josh. Maybe just tell the viewers watching a little bit about yourself so everyone can get to know you a bit better.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Josh. What I kind of do right now is social media marketing. So I have a marketing agency where we leverage UGC for D2C brands. And other than that, I'm finishing up my last year in university, and I'm sort of pursuing content creation right now. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
My name's Ryan. I am currently starting my entrepreneurial journey with freelancing and web design, and I also work a 9-to-5 in construction, and that's about it.
Awesome. I may as well go ahead and also introduce myself here. So I'm Jared. I'm the founder here at the IRL Experience. For those of you that are just watching this for the first time, you don't know anything about IRL. It's a community I run. It's a network bringing together entrepreneurs from across the world, other ambitious guys like myself that probably aren't going down your typical route of getting a degree and pursuing a 9-to-5 career. It's more guys that are looking to level up their life in different areas and be on their path towards financial freedom, and as well be able to focus on other areas of their life without having to, sacrifice in order to get to that end goal. So we do meetups around the world. This is our third official meetup in Miami. Our first one was also here in Miami this past summer. Then we went over to London a couple months ago. Now here again in Miami. In 2024, we're just looking to constantly do more meetups all over the world, come together through our own online platform curated by myself with different mentors, different coaches in there, and all sorts of resources. So all these boys have had a chance to connect with online. We've been able to form some digital connections through all these Zoom calls we've gone over and whatnot. So that's really what I do, IRL, and I'll pass it off to you, Landon.
All right. What's up, guys? I'm Landon Bellamio. I started my entrepreneurship journey probably a year and a half ago. I mainly do TikTok. Most of you guys probably know me from there. But yeah, I started off with TikTok, working with brands, kind of got a feel that, you can actually make money online. Did a few e-commerce brands. I had one that did really well. It's called OG Shades. We already sold it and everything. And then I transferred into learning skills, so web design, graphic design, just really learning how to use my skills for other people to provide value. And this year I'm starting my marketing agency. Currently doing SaaS right now just to get used to the software that I'm using. Then I'm going into an influencer marketing agency. So yeah.
What's up, boys? I'm Lucas. Just turned 22 yesterday, actually, from Miami, Florida. Right now, I'm an Airbnb host doing Airbnb rental arbitrage. Some of you might know about that. I got into that this year. I actually just graduated from college in December. So while I was in school, I decided to try and pursue making money online. So I was able to kind of do that juggling act of being in school, but also creating an income stream online. And so, yeah, right now, this year, 2024, just going to be scaling up that Airbnb business and maybe looking into other endeavors. I'm not sure, but as of now, that's my big plan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we dive into different topics to talk about, a lot of different things we could get into, I want to know maybe we'll start off with you, Lucas. How has this experience been for you? It's probably your first time ever doing something like this. I know you're from here, you're a local, but it's different, right? Would you say?
Yeah, for sure. It's almost funny kind of like being a tourist in your own city again, because going to some of these spots like South Beach, as a local, you never really go there. You go to Brickell and downtown and all those areas, but yeah, it's been great being able to show the boys around, take them to good spots, a couple of decent restaurants, that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, just being around this group of like-minded guys has been incredible these past 3 days. I would say being around these guys has really helped me in, pursue excellence in different realms that I haven't been pursuing on my own. So I've been pursuing business mostly on my own, but then being around these guys, it pushes you to go further in the spiritual realm or the physical realm. Like the first morning we woke up, we did guided meditation, which I've kind of been trying to do stuff like that, but it's it's harder on your own. But when you're with this group and everyone else is doing it, you can't just sit in the house and be like, oh, I'm not going to do the meditation or whatever. No, you go with the boys, you do the meditation. After the meditation, we hit, I don't know, what was it, 20 push-ups? So like we did just like a push-up challenge type thing. And you know, that's also something that, being so focused on business, I've kind of slacked off a little on the physicality side of things, physical realm. So I'm trying to improve that now that I've started to improve in the business realm. And just being with these guys helps push you further. We did Muscle Beach, which is somewhere I'd never even been as a local, you know, and going there was a great experience. So yeah, I would say just being around all these guys has helped me increase my ability to improve in other realms that I wasn't individually.
Awesome. Yeah. So for me, dude, this has been a crazy experience, right? Imagine trying to get 5 or 6 of your core friends from your hometown to try and go on a trip, somewhere pretty far away from where you're at, and everyone be able to have a good time, have crazy talks, really just enjoy life and not worry about anything that you guys have back home. It's damn near impossible, because I've tried it multiple times. But Jared, big thanks to you, brother, because without this, wouldn't have such core talks, with the people that I'm around back home. It's really interesting that we all just met each other a few days ago, and off the bat just clicked. The energy's been high, been living, like Lucas said, going through meditation together and working out together, and we're all still doing our own thing, little workshops at the house, little deep work, and it's really just sitting there and conversing about all the things that we're doing, seeing different perspectives of what we're doing, little additions to the things we're doing to help us succeed better. All this stuff, like it's really hard to come across, right? Second thing is, like, there's a lot of conversations that you guys don't see that really hits home for a lot of us, right? And helps us figure out things that we couldn't figure out, right? We couldn't possibly understand the answer to without conversing and breaking down what that actually is. I think one of the big things that I really like doing is picking people's brains. So, like, being here, asking questions that you wouldn't even ask yourself to really understand more about yourself. I think that's something that all the guys here can relate to is awesome.
I agree with you on that one, bro. I think it's like, looking back at the 2 other meetups, I was telling you guys this, it's not the boat, the dinner, the big things. Those are all amazing, but it's the small little conversations, the waking up in the morning with the boys, not like you feeling like you have to get up and have to just be there with the boys and not, I guess, be lazy or just sort of do your own thing. It really pushes you to be better in different areas that you never thought would be something you'd have to work on. So
yeah. And I think that goes along with something that you said the other day. It was an awesome quote too. It was, be wherever your feet are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that one. I even wrote it down. I was like, yo, that's awesome. It's just idolizing being present, in every single thing that you do. Because if, let's say one guy at that meditation was just, like on their phone, I don't think it would have been the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Like, I use my phone quite a bit to post content. My business honestly relies on my phone, but everyone's not on their phone. It's hard for me to be on my phone because I see everybody else, and you want to model what everybody else is doing. You don't want to be the elephant in the room that's just sort of not in it. So yeah, man, I think hopefully you guys will join me on future meetups. I mean, this is the beginning. We're all so young, and I think that's what makes this so special. People doing these podcasts, having this platform. Yeah, I don't have a massive audience yet, but you don't see this, maybe the occasional guy, right? But how many young guys you see coming together in person across the world and doing things how we're doing it right now?
I've never seen it, especially not, like, none of us are rich. Like, you always just see, like, these guys that, like, maybe they've been grinding for, like, 5 years, and then they decide to, like, build a network like this. I've never seen it from the ground floor.
Yeah. Exactly. People are seeing it from ground zero. I still consider this day one. You know what I mean? Like compared to where we're gonna be, all of us in 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just the start. We're just scraping the surface.
And that's what's most important is the ground floor, because like you always hear, I mean, it's cliche, but you always hear rappers rapping about fake people and this and that.
Yeah.
It's because these people are latching onto them once they're at the top,
Mm.
and none of us are at the top. So no one here has like an ulterior motive to like latch on to anyone for fame or clout or money, because none of us have a level that's worth latching onto.
Yeah.
So getting in from here, we know that this is like a real brotherhood. It's not fake.
Yeah. Yeah, we were also talking about how that's one of the coolest things about IRL is that it is starting not like from the bottom, but like at a lower point to where once things pick up in the future, it's going to be so cool to look back on these beginning meetups, you know? And that's the coolest thing. Like it feels almost like a big like manifestation ritual, you know? Like just the way like all the things we talk about with our goals in the future and whatnot. It's just going to be so cool to look back on everything just from the beginning.
100%, bro. I want to actually go over the meetup so far, like from the beginning to the end. So like day one, like our first official day, the interviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you guys will see all the interviews on our Instagram and on YouTube and whatnot. That I've done interviews all over Europe. Okay, it was amazing. But being here in Miami, the environment, the people we met,
Mm-hmm.
that alone was something that I've never experienced before. And I think a lot of people will only get to that point once they've quote unquote made it. You know what I mean? So what do you guys think about the interviews we've done and the people we met, the conversations we heard?
Yeah. So, I mean, when we were sitting at the table talking about it, what I was saying is like, you know, every single thing that we probably all see on the entrepreneurship like guru side of social media, you know, watching other people's content and stuff, they all kind of say the same things, right? Make money doing a skill, you know, provide a value for somebody, all those type of things, right? But seeing these guys in person and hearing that face to face hits so different. It just affirms every single thing that we probably watch online, and that was like a big thing, because that was like the first time I actually understood and got it. You know, like I got it. Like, that's
And
what
like,
we need to
for
do.
example, you know, Sneeko, right? We met
Yeah.
Sneeko, and he talked to us for a couple of minutes. Yeah, he was talking to the camera, but for some reason, being there with him in person, it felt like he was talking to all of us at the same time. Because you saw we're all young guys. We're in Miami. We probably don't live here. We're just sort of touring the city.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I really felt that energy from him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and as soon as we got there that day, we were like, I knew the first guy we interviewed, it was like, it's gonna be good vibes today. Like we knew that there were gonna be people around. We just had that feeling, you know,
Into the
because
feeling, yeah.
yeah, it was like a little bit after the new year, like people were back kind of in that business mode. There's more locals around who are really the people you want to interview, you know, and even that first guy we found, like it wasn't perfect. Like the guy didn't speak English. Like Jared goes up to him and Jared asked him like at least 3 or 4 questions, and all we could get out of this guy was like, oh, I've been doing business for 40 years. Like it was basically all we could get out of him. And then like I was recording, I was on camera duty, and I was like, yo, let me just speak to this guy in Spanish, and we got better info out of him. And I mean, he ended up being a really cool guy. He even offered to like, you know, give us a piece of the business. He was like, yo, $300K and I'll give you half the business. And I was like, I don't know, bro, but you know,
Yeah.
it was he was a cool guy. But yeah, I mean, you never know. I mean, this guy literally, he had a plant truck. He was just selling plants and letting people just rent these plants. I mean, whoever thinks of that? He's like, yeah, bro, we're the only ones in the United States. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure, you know, like, it's like, I've never seen this before, but.
Talk about a niche business.
Yeah, he was like, I have 7 of these trucks. And I was like, dang, he was like showing an interview of him on like some Spanish news network. But yeah, I mean, it was just, even though we did see Sneeko, we saw all these celebrity guys that you would never expect to see. We also got some of these guys some normal guys that also spit some good wisdom to us.
That's what
So
I
that
want to
was
know. Like,
cool.
what are some other key takeaways for you guys beyond just the business side of things, of like going outside your comfort zone, cold approaching people, women, men, whatever it may be? Like, there are a lot of key takeaways that I keep getting out of interviewing people myself.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it was just overall a big learning experience, and not just from what we were learning from the people we talked to, because like Sneeko is dropping some wisdom for us off camera too, and like just talking to all these high level people that are in a position that we want to eventually be at. Not only that, but like you said, like doing the cold approach, putting yourself out there, having the camera on you while trying to interview somebody. It's something I've never done before, and I wasn't particularly good at it. But at the end of the day, you have to start, and like just doing an action like interviewing strangers on the street, that will build your confidence. It's just overall crazy learning experience.
100%, bro. 100%. Yeah. And then after the interviews, what was after that in the agenda for the trip? I'm trying to think.
We went.
Top golf.
Top golf. Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah,
Loved
top
that.
golf was good. Like, it's just fun to be able to just grab dinner, and I think it's important to not position this experience as like a networking opportunity, right? Yeah, sure, we're networking, talking to people about business, but that's why I want to call IRL like a lifestyle community of just kicking it with your boys, similar to your hometown friends, but having fun in the process. And I think a lot of people, this sort of like red pill community that we're going to get into a bit later, it's just a bit too serious, I think. And I think it's important to have fun, but also work hard. And I think that balance has been lost on social media.
For sure, I definitely agree. And like that's one of the things I was gonna say that's so cool about IRL is because on a trip like this, there's a fine balance of working hard and staying focused, but also having fun. It's like we have a mix of both. And rather than coming on a trip to just do some crazy monk mode where we're all like constantly trying to be getting stuff done, it's going to somewhere like Topgolf and going to the beach and all that. That's the best.
Productivity comes in different ways, right? People see productivity as only like in front of your computer all day. Like this was extremely productive, right? And or like your definition of a happiness or of what's considered fun, like on the boat talking about the podcast and all of that. People may see that being like, yo, why aren't these guys like popping bottles, going crazy, because that's their definition of fun, or society's. And to us, I think we've grown out of that. We've matured a lot to the point where fun, it comes in different ways. It's more fulfillment. It's more focused on growth and whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean we had a lot of fun on the boat for sure, but we were also getting content while we were there. I mean, on the jet skis, we had the cameraman, the videographer guy, got some crazy footage of us on the jet skis. Like I didn't even know it was possible. He had some 7x zoom. He was like, the jet ski was way in the middle of the bay, and we're on the boat like I don't know how many feet away, like super far away, and like halfway across the bay, and this guy is zooming in on them two just on the jet ski. Like you can see everything like crystal clear as if you're right on top of them.
And speaking about that, I just think I'm trying to level up each meetup, not trying to compare it to like the previous ones, but the first meetup, we had the boat, but we didn't have the jet skis, and we didn't do the interviews. So I think it's important for me to just constantly increase the value as we go. And remember us not talking about all the future meetups and like possible ideas of like a ski chalet or, hiking some mountain, like maybe like Kilimanjaro or something like that, or going to Bali, and countless opportunities for experiences in the future.
Yeah.
It was so cool that like one of the best things about these IRL trips is that it's documented. Like how many times would you go on a trip with your friends and everyone's like, it's not like we're recording all the time. Like we have some great talks off camera and whatnot, but just being able to look back at this, like that's one of the coolest things is that like we've documented like a lot of the cool things we did.
Yeah, and I think like documenting, people don't understand like the power of that, because just besides like the fact that we have this footage, we have all this content, right? We've made a connection with the cameraman and the videographer guy, and he was really into like what we were doing with IRL, and he really liked the idea of the whole thing, and we really related to him because he was our age. He was like, man, like I never get to do this with like my group of friends, that type of thing. And so just by us deciding to document that journey, we added to our network this guy. And so you never know what can come of just documenting things.
Yeah. Shout out Sergio. Second thing is like what a lot of people don't realize is that contacts equal contracts, right? I know that's kind of cliche, but dude, every single guy that you meet that that you have a good interaction with, they have friends that they've had good interactions with, right? So networking isn't just about, oh, let me go meet these guys, let me go meet literally everyone. It's about, positioning yourself to meet these guys, positioning yourself to have a good interaction, right? Like being on the street interviewing people, that really changed because there's so many rejections, people who are, borderline assholes, people that are busy, guys that don't want to be a part of something, guys that don't want to help out. And then there are those guys that are super nice and do want to help out and do want to, be a part and help us out, So those interactions, the good ones, meant more and outweighed all the rejections that we had the entire day.
Talk about rejections and our key takeaways with momentum. It kind of felt like we were doing like door-to-door sales or some shit, because all it is selling them on an interview on some questions. And I felt like the first 8 people maybe ignoring us, and then we met Sneeko, and then before you know, we're on a roll. I think those insights, those key takeaways, you could apply to anything in your life.
Yeah, and sometimes you just gotta compliment people in the street. I mean, that's some of our best interviews have been oh, you just walk up to some guy who's got cool shades on, or he's got a nice hat, and be like, yo man, nice hat, love your hat, how did you get that hat, type thing. And then you it spirals into there. It's oh, would you be willing to talk to us a little more about that, and then and that just goes to everyday life. When you meet someone, let's say you're working 9 to 5, that's how you make connections, with your boss or whatever. You see he's wearing a nice tie, be like, oh, I like that tie or whatever, or I like that watch, you're a watch guy, and then you spiral into that. And that's how you make those connections, and that's how you move up the ladder in the business world, but also that's how you make friendships. It's not just a transactional thing. You shouldn't just say, oh, I love your hat because you want to use this guy for something. No, it's more of you're actually trying to build a relationship that, sure, it might help you in the business world, but also just from a personal standpoint.
That's very true. Authenticity, right?
Yeah,
goes a long way.
Yeah, and you never know. Some of these guys you might do a street interview with, they could end up being your best friend in a couple years. You never know.
We're actually, right now we're on Instagram Live for a couple minutes, just doing a live Q&A. So we got one question from Tom, one of the boys from IRL. He says, what was your last failure, and what was your biggest takeaway from that failure? Ooh, that's some heat right there.
Great question.
Josh, you want to answer this one?
I'm trying to think. If anyone can think of theirs first, then go ahead. But I'm trying to think of my last failure. Okay, so last year-ish, in 2022, kind of end of 2021, I was big into the Web3 space with crypto and NFTs and whatnot. And being someone with low capital, getting into that space, it's high risk, but high reward at the same time. That's kind of what intrigued me about it, besides the technology and everything and the benefits of it. But I got humbled pretty hard by spending a lot of money on NFTs and crypto and whatnot. And as everyone knows, well, if you are aware of the space, the market completely tanked. So that was just a big learning experience for me, because I had conviction in my abilities and my intuition and the projects itself. But at the same time, it just didn't work out how I thought it would. But losing that money taught me a lot about how to manage my money as well. But it just taught me about, you have to fail forward, because when you fail like that, it teaches you how to take more calculated risks in the future. And I feel like that's sort of what led me onto this entrepreneurial journey, because starting something like an agency and whatnot, it's dependent on how hard you work. It's not dependent on external factors. So that's been a big thing, is feeling more confident in my abilities moving forward, because I know that I control the outcome.
Failing forward, such a good little quote.
That's what you got to do.
Yeah. Dude, the last failure for me, I was talking to a guy in DMs for a few weeks, right? And just really establishing a connection, right? And I offered to help him out. I gave him free sauce, gave him everything that he needs, and I really did want to help this guy grow, right? And we were going back and forth, and then when I hit him with the offer, he thought it was a complete scam. Started roasting, roasting me, trying to, say like, you're a scammer, this, that, and the third, like scam business, blah, blah. And I was like, yo, this totally went sideways. And I think like through everything, like there is always going to be something that goes sideways, right? But my key takeaway from that going sideways, and especially like calling me scam, knowing that I'm not, kind of was like, wow, that's a different perspective of me that I never want anyone to think of me like as a scam, right? So thought about that. I was like, wow, maybe I should change the offer. Maybe I should have went about it in a different way. It's just those interactions, trying to get yourself out there, that goes completely sideways. You have to realize it's a part of everything, just like the rejections, from the interviews. It's you have to take that with a grain of salt and just keep moving forward, fail forward, right?
Of course.
That's awesome.
Talk about failing forward. That reminds me of, I think I was doing an interview with this girl. I don't know if you guys watched it, and I asked, do you think you need a backup plan? And that's very controversial, because I would say 90% of people or more would probably think you do need a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
And my take on that has completely shifted ever since I started my journey. I think you don't need a backup plan.
Yeah. It's
Because you
plan A
fall
all the
forward,
way.
right?
Plan B
Or
is
you have a
plan A.
safety net. And I think a safety net versus a backup plan are two very different things. Knowing that you have something in the back of your mind of like, okay, well, a family business or something like that, that's more of a safety net. But a backup plan would be, okay, well, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to try this as well, but I'm going to go 75% here and 25% there in case the one doesn't work. And I think if you do that, you're not going to allocate all your time, energy, and attention towards that one thing. And I think to know that you have something in the back of your mind, that is going to stop you. That's going to create resistance to getting to where you want to go.
That's one of the biggest impacts, is the mindset. Like if you, like you said, in the back of your head are always thinking about this alternative plan, then that might take away from your confidence to begin with to achieve the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you were thinking, this is what's going to happen if I fail, rather than looking at it as, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm all in. When you look at a lot of successful people in the world, they usually, maybe they did, but usually wouldn't have a backup plan. They went full throttle and didn't quit. And that's the way you succeed, is by not, like if you work at something for a year and it doesn't work out for you, and then you go to your plan B, who knows, you could have done it for another year and succeeded and gotten to where you wanted to go. So
Very true, very true.
Yeah, I don't think it's terrible to have a backup plan, but having a set plan and a backup plan is basically like having two different seeds, and then whichever one you water the most, like grow. So if you're constantly thinking about your backup plan, and as you're working on your plan A, but you're not really focused completely on your main plan, your backup plan will be the outcome, because it's being created in your mind. It just becomes your reality. But if you kind of just create know that there's just kind of like a safety net backup plan, which it kind of makes it more comfortable for you to go all in on your main plan.
Very true. Let's do one last question here before we wrap this Instagram live. If anybody wants to
If you want, I can answer the failure too.
Oh yeah, you want to go? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a kind of a long-winded story a little bit, but in 2022 spring, or I guess winter 2022, I did one of those coding boot camps. That's what they're called, where you go for like 10 weeks and you just you're there from like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5 days a week, and you're just coding all day. Like in the morning, you do lectures with some teacher, and then in the afternoon, you just code for like 6 hours straight. And so I did that. That was about like 3 months long, like 12 weeks, 10 weeks. And so my goal from that was to eventually become a web developer, like freelance or even just a corporate job, and then drop out of school. And so I'd taken a gap semester, and I did the whole boot camp successfully, obviously, went through it, graduated that, and then I was basically going to try and get a job in the coding world. And I was doing it for about like 1 to 2 months after the boot camp, where I was like increasing my skills, looking at jobs, but ended up just not panning out, right? And I went back to school, and I was like, man, like, this sucks. Like my whole goal, I was like, if I go back to school after doing all that for like 6 months, it's like a failure, right? At the end of the day, I was like, I don't have any other option. Like, this didn't really work out. Let me just go back to school. I went back to school. That was my junior year of college. So then I ended up just graduating this last December, and I ended up working out because while I was in school, I was like, all right, I'm back in school, but I got to maximize my time here, right? And so through there, I was able to use that time in school to look into different ways to make money online, found Airbnb. That worked out, right? But then otherwise, who knows? Maybe I would be doing a 9 to 5, just sitting at a computer coding for some big company, and I might have liked it, I might have not, but I don't necessarily see myself sitting there in that developer lifestyle because I'm more extroverted than a lot of those people were. And, you know, I've still made great relationships from that boot camp. Like, I know guys that are in the coding world. I actually went on a trip with one this summer, right? But it didn't work out for me to work in that industry, but I still made connections there. And then I was able to go back to college. I got a degree. Whatever the worth of that will be is unknown, right? But I was able to get my degree and start a business, so it's worked out. Even though it was a failure, it was just all part of that path and that journey of discovering what I really wanted to do.
Awesome. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yes, sir.
I was gonna say that too. Everything happens for a reason because genuinely, like you said, a lot of these failures for us seem like failures in the present time, but a few years down the line when you look back, you're like, that was really a blessing in disguise.
In disguise,
you know?
yeah.
Every single thing that happens to you, whether it's a failure, a celebration, or something, it shapes you into who you're eventually going to become. So, gotta always look at every situation in a positive manner, I guess.
What was I gonna say?
I got a question for you guys, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
What would you say is like some advice you've received in the past that has changed your life drastically, or it's kind of the same question, but what advice would you give to anybody who might be watching, who kind of wants to get their life on track, find a purpose, find a path, and what would you tell them?
A good quote that I thought about is how you do one thing is how you do everything, because it goes down to habits, right? We all have heard, like, okay, you know, make your bed in the morning, and that sounds very lame to other people, but the first book I read was called The Slight Edge. I've talked about it a lot. It's by Jeff Olson. I highly recommend you reading it if you're watching this. It talks about the little things behind closed doors compound, and how the real reason why people become successful, it's not because of this innate ability to just, like, you know, make money, or they're very smart. It's just about doing the things you say you're going to do, building that reputation with yourself, and focusing on the small habits, and just realizing that if you're going to be a dick to somebody in business, chances are you're probably not the best version of yourself in other areas of your life as well, because it trickles into different parts. So it's all interconnected, and I think it's important to do the things you're going to do behind the closed doors, and don't only do it because you're put on a platform like this.
Yeah, for sure. Dude, silent wins are like, that's how you build the confidence, because it's making a promise to yourself on who you're going to be. And also, like you said, like, how you do one thing is how you do another. I don't know if you guys heard that Luke Belmar told a story that he was with a guy that was going to do like $1 billion deal or something. And he didn't end up doing it or closing the deal with the guy because he had cheated on his wife. So it's like,
Really?
yeah, and the reason he said that, because Luke was like, dude, why? It's $1 billion deal, like, it's just business, like, and then the guy was like, no, it's not just business. How you do one thing is how you do another. Like, if he's gonna cheat on his wife and embarrass her like that and do her dirty, what's he gonna do to me in business, you know?
That's crazy. I never heard that, bro. Mm-hmm. That deserves a little...
Come on, dog.
I had to use that one, bro. That's really a come on, dog moment, though.
Yeah, literally.
But I want to say something, because, you know, when Jared said that, it brought me back to, I used to play baseball. I could play baseball since I was like 5 years old to 16. And you'd always hear coaches and your parents, or at least my dad anyway, saying, like, you know, how you practice is how you're going to play in the game. And a lot of times during the practice, everyone was just there to have a good time, play catch and, grind a little bit. But that's really one of those things where, like, those guys that overperformed in practice were the guys that performed during the game,
For sure. That's the Mamba mentality. Like, Kobe always said that you have to go as hard as you possibly can in practice, because that's how you do the best you can in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell the difference between people who practice behind closed doors as hard as they can and the ones who just don't.
Very true. Speaking of Kobe, I know Kobe's obviously had so many mentors in his career. I want to know your guys' thoughts on mentorship and why it's pivotal to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, this will connect a little bit to your advice question, and it'll connect to your mentor question. So whenever my grandmother lives, she lives in North Carolina in the mountains, and kind of like there's a lot of old retired people live up there. A fair amount of them are wealthy. And so when I go visit her, a lot of times these types of guys are around, right? These guys, I mean, she knows the founder of Home Depot, so you'll like see like some big guns up there, right? And these guys just look like normal dudes, and so you would never really know most of the time. But you'll get to talking to them, and they'll learn like that you're in college or whatever. They'll be like, oh, so what are you studying? And then you'll give the usual speech, right? And then be like, so what are you gonna do with that? And then I've started to get to the point where I don't even fake it anymore, because like people will be like, because I studied political science, right? And so people will be like, oh, so you're gonna work in the State Department, or you're gonna do work for this senator? And I'll be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I don't really think that's for me. And then they'll be like, so what are you gonna do? I'm like, well, I actually am starting my own business, doing Airbnb and this and that. And funny enough, you would never think that these guys would like, you would think they would be like, oh, well, wouldn't you think it would be safer to go work for like, the government? There's great benefits, there's this and that. None of them have ever said that's dumb. All of them have been like, that's super smart. Like, it's always better to go on your own. It's just, we think of this older generation sometimes as being so boxed in to like, call it the Matrix, call it whatever you want. You think that they don't have any entrepreneurial bones in their body, but the most successful ones do. And really, you have to think, oh, well, my family, they're going to like hate this. Like, what is my grandfather going to think if I drop out of school? Or what's he going to think if I don't like work a normal 9 to 5? Yeah. A lot of the time, they're actually going to be supportive, and they're actually going to fully understand where you're coming from. And so they might not say that because it's a little, I don't know, taboo is the right word, but it's a little bit like, people won't say that to the kid because they don't want the kid to think that he can just drop out and do whatever, right? They're always going to say, get that education. They're always going to say, go to college. But then once they see that the kid has a mentality, has a mindset, has a vision, they're okay with it, And so you just have to present some sort of proof of concept is really the key. And so that's not really a piece of advice per se, but those guys will then give you some words of wisdom, and that helps you move in the right direction. And some of these guys can even become your mentor, like you're saying. And for me, mentorship, I don't really have yet a mentor like in my field of business that I'm pursuing right now, which is something that I'm going to try and work on in the future here, next couple of months or next year. But, a mentor is super important. I'm lucky enough to come from a family where, like, when I'm looking at contracts or whatever, and because real estate, it's like there's all these contracts. I don't know what's going on half the time, right? I have a lawyer in my family that helps me go through this. And so if you're getting started in any business, you have to, sometimes it's luck, but sometimes you're just going to have to reach out to someone and be like, hey, like, would you mind looking over this, proofreading this paper, or doing something? And they don't have to be a formal mentor, but just like a resource that you can use.
And like, we all have mentors, right? Whether it's one-on-one actual mentorship or it's somebody we all look up to online, right? Luke Belmar is one of the guys that I resonate with a lot. I'm sure you guys do as well. And it's just understanding, okay, what he's saying, actually implement that into your life. And eventually get to a point where you work with someone one-on-one, which I just got into recently. But yeah, I mean, you got to have people to always above you because you're constantly learning, right? It's constantly an uphill mountain that never ends.
Yep. I also got into a mentorship program recently, and the reason I ended up doing that is because, well, a bunch of different reasons. Obviously, it'll hopefully help accelerate my success. But a quote I heard goes along the lines of, don't or smart people learn from their mistakes, but wise people learn from other people's mistakes. If you have somebody that has done what you want to do and done it well, you could very well just go after something and try and figure it all out yourself. But if you have somebody guiding you that has already made the mistakes and gone down the path, then they can kind of direct you in a much more efficient way.
Well said.
Well said. Yeah, so I paid for a mentorship program as well. And, dude, in the first month, my income literally tripled, right? So it goes back to that, like learning from someone else's failure so they can navigate you to the right, place you need to be. And it, like, my mentor also ties in with advice, because the first call I hopped in, not the first, it was probably like the second or third call when he was actually like coaching me about what to do, right? I was transitioning businesses from like my service industry to, what should I do? I gave him I had 3 options of paths I wanted to take. And I went through one, I went through the second one, and I started on the third one. He was like, dude, stop. You're thinking too much. Do it now. Start doing right now, right? And I think that's something that school almost embedded in us is preparing, right? You always have to prepare for a test. You always have to prepare for, if you're in Florida, FSA, always got to prepare for the exams. And then once you get out into real life, some people prepare so long that they never actually do. And so the preparing compounds rather than the doing compounds, right? And so that night I started doing and quite literally seen transformation in only 2 weeks, which is insane. But that's a note for you guys. Like, do it now. I know you've heard it before. Like, everyone knows what they have to do. You just got to do it.
That's so true.
You don't need any more advice, right? Like, we're always looking for the next side hustle to start in 2024, especially beginning of the year now. We're all thinking, or not us, but viewers watching, like, okay, well, what's the next play? What's the next side hustle? And I think, we've always heard of the rat race, and I think I read it in a book. It's called like the bunny race or something, where you're like a little bunny hopping from different carrots to eat. Kind of like different side hustles to get into. I know so many people that are little bunnies that are just trying to do, okay, well, AI automation, SMMA, copywriting. They're just trying everything, which is cool to do. But at some point, you got to stick with one thing for at least, half a year or, a couple months to see, okay, well, have I spent enough time, energy, and attention directed towards that one thing?
Dude, I love that analogy because, as a bunny hopping from carrot to carrot to eat the carrot, right? If a bunny stayed in one place and ate the carrot and the carrot grows back, they eat it again, and it's just that same cycle. So it's about like how many carrots can you get?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and people like Josh, we were talking on the way here, where Josh said that people always overestimate what they can do in a short time frame and underestimate what they can do in a long time frame. And so that's basically what that is, that effect you're talking about, is that everyone jumps from carrot to carrot and they're like, oh, well, I didn't eat enough of this carrot, because but they didn't give themselves enough time, right? They overestimated what they could do in that short time frame versus what they could have done in a longer time frame.
That's some heat right there. That's some.
Yeah, starting is always the most essential step for everything that you've ever done in your life.
Yeah.
What has the first step always been? To start. Like, that's always what you have to do to get to where you want to go. And like you said, I resonated with it a lot, is that so many people are stuck in the preparation phase or the learning phase, and like they find something they want to do, but they spend just so much time preparing to do it rather than just starting, and that held me back so many times when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey. Like, I wanted to get into sales, and like for the longest time I was just learning about sales and all this stuff, when really I should have been doing outreach and whatnot to get a sales job. And same with when I started making content. I spent so much time just writing out content ideas, trying to find the right approach. And if I had spent that time, those few months, actually putting content out there, then who knows the growth I would have made. It probably would have been a lot more, because like we said, it's like you have to put yourself into doing something to actually learn.
Yeah, like looking back at my journey, right, it's only been, I guess. Like with IRL, less than a year. My entire journey has been about a year now, and the first month or two was by far the hardest. And it's crazy to think that, like, it should be, in a way, it should be the easiest because, you know, you don't have much to worry about. You don't have even an actual business yet. But, like, you know, between dropping out of school, dealing with all that backlash, and starting it from ground zero, you know, Instagram account, 0 followers, fresh start. I don't know, like, once you start doing it, just gets easier and easier. And the power of momentum, which we touched on earlier, like, it's a real thing. And I think you don't understand what that is until you're actually experiencing it.
So why do you think you didn't quit in those first 2 months?
Because this intuitive feeling of, I saw what I could do. Like, I almost could, like, future project and understand, okay, well, if I had a conversation with my 25-year-old self, and I continued down this route of going to school, he's going to tell myself how much regret he's experienced. And I just kept thinking about what that future self would think of me doing this. And I think it was inevitable for me to start this. It's just a question of when. You know, that's why I dropped out. I dropped out late. I dropped out during my 3rd year. So I had like 3 semesters left, which sounds like extremely delusional or like crazy to most people. And it kind of was crazy, but you got to be a bit crazy to do something, you know. And I think why wait? You know, like, there's a good saying, it goes, it's never too late to start, but it's always too late to wait.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, you know,
That's a good
start tomorrow.
Yeah, and you always have to take risks to receive something of value.
Start today. Start after this podcast.
Yeah. And like we were saying just now, like, starting and like continuing to do it in those early stages is the hardest part. They always say, like, your first 100K is going to be the hardest one you make, and then it all just gets a little bit easier after that. And that goes for everything. If you take the gym, for example, if you haven't worked out before, or it's been a long time since you worked out, the first week you go, your muscles are going to be as sore as they'll ever be. And it's also hard at the beginning stages to stay consistent with that routine because it's something new for you. But all it takes is staying consistent over a little bit of time, and that just becomes easier down the road.
100%. And thinking about that, I want to know, like, for the people watching that are stuck in school, they're stuck in a job, they're stuck in a cycle, whether it's an external world or it's up here, you know, we're all still navigating our journey, right? I don't want to sit here saying that we've accomplished great things yet. You know, that's going to come. But I want to know, because I'm just thinking back to my old self of, you know, when you're telling me what made you continue going. And that person I'm always making content for, that former self. So if that self was watching right now, he's in school, he wants to drop out, but he doesn't know what to start. This was a question we also asked a lot of people during our interviews. What would you guys say? Let's go around the table, starting with you, Lucas. What would you tell that person in 2024? What are the first couple actionable steps they would take?
Yeah, so based on my experience, like this, some people might not like the answer, and because it requires work. Is that I feel like you should have some sort of proof of concept. Like with Jared, like he obviously didn't have members in IRL, like he hadn't launched IRL, but he had the idea and he had basically a rough draft, right, of what he was going to do. In my opinion, that's what you should not have a rough draft if you're going to drop out. If you're going to drop out, you need some sort of rough draft, maybe not even a proof of concept, because you didn't have proof that this concept was going to work, right? But you had an idea, a rough draft that you can at least like kind of defend yourself from the backlash, like you said. Like I'm sure you had a lot of backlash. You need to have some ammunition to defend yourself from that. And I think you just need that rough draft. But let's say you have too many rough drafts, like we were just talking about. You have all this, you're trying to eat all these different carrots and you can't, right? Because you're going to get analysis paralysis, all this stuff. Just choose one rough draft. If it doesn't work out, you have the next ones, but there's no use in trying to work on them all at the same time, right? So just go with one, you know, regardless of what your parents say. They might say it's not going to work, but at least you have something that they know you're not just sitting on the couch watching TV, because that's the biggest thing. You know what it is, whether it's mom or dad, they're going to be like, they're just worried about you just sitting around being useless, right? And you got to have some kind of way of convincing them that that's not going to be you. And so, yeah, that would be my advice.
If we're staying on the rabbit metaphors, you could say. The man who chases 2 rabbits catches none.
Exactly.
Or the ladder analogy. You want to repeat that one? we
Yeah,
talked
so
about?
so it was actually I saw a video of a pastor in a church, right? And he put 2 ladders together, so it looked like this. Both the stairs were on this side, right? And he started walking up it. At a certain point in the ladders, he had 1 foot here and 1 foot here, and he was like, I can't go up any higher unless I pick one ladder, right? And I think a lot of people can envision that in their brain and understand that that is true for almost everything. Everything, right?
That's a great analogy. I like that one.
Yeah.
You got to choose a path eventually.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to having a mindset, like getting your mindset straight, and because all you have really is your attention, and if you're bouncing back and forth between 2 things with your attention, neither one of them are going to be consistently growing.
We only have a certain amount of mental real estate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And or mental bandwidth, and you could expand it. It goes pretty far, but it gets to a point where to get to that next level, you have to choose one. And I think that perfect moment we touched on earlier, I think we've all dealt with that before, of this like perfect time. Like, okay, I'm going to start it after this or on Monday. You know, that's a common thing. People want to wait to start their diet or something on a Monday or January 1st. And I think time doesn't even exist. Like, not to get super woo-woo, but like, doesn't exist. Or you're not guaranteed tomorrow. You hear these sayings that are quite cliche, but they're very true. So I think
Yeah.
just start now, like we've been saying.
Yeah, the only thing that actually exists is right now.
Yeah,
And
the power
people
of now.
live in the future, having fear of what might happen in the future, and they delay the start of what could be something in the future, but they they just keep delaying it instead of focusing on what they can do right now to actually achieve what they want.
Facts. Talking about also the journey and the start, and you know, we've been talking a lot about the entrepreneurial journey. I want to know, we talked about this, I think it was 2 nights ago, about relationships and about, you know, having a girlfriend.
Before we get into that, I
Oh.
want to touch on the mindset topic. that
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
talking about. So, I almost don't like when everyone like says like you have to have the right mindset, right? I understand what they mean by it, but I think a lot of people who don't have that mindset really don't understand what that is, right? You know, you hear millionaire mindset, all of this stuff, but just like Ben Bader said, you know, I could teach you every single step to how I got to the place in my life today, and it most likely would not work out for you, right? Everyone thinks differently. Everyone has different neurological triggers in their brain. Mindset is you just being a better version of yourself. So think about that in all aspects of your life, just being a better version of yourself, and then the mindset will follow.
I think that comes with having intention on every single action you take.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's something I tell like everybody is attention and intention are probably the 2 most powerful things ever.
Intention, because there's a good analogy. It's like when you go in an Uber, you have an address to go to. You know, I want to go to that house. I want to walk into that door. I want to see these people. But if you don't have intention, you're still taking action. You're still going inside that Uber. It'll be like telling the Uber driver, hey, just drive me down there. Let's go down there. And there's not a clear, specific goal you have in your head. Or it's like, you know, at a restaurant, you're ordering food in the menu, and you don't know what to order, so you tell the waitress, yeah, just get me some seafood. And turns out some seafood that you don't like. So it's important to be very clear on what kind of food you want to order. Where are you going, that Uber driver? Like, where are you going in terms of direction? I think those are all very important things to dial in on and be as crystal clear as possible.
yeah, it allows you to have control over where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great point. Like, for anyone that's watching and like you don't really like, you want to achieve big things and you want to hit your goals and whatnot, like the analogy Jared just said, is you have to have clarity. Like, if you were to get in that Uber and you don't know where you're going, then the Uber's just going to stay in one spot, you know? So if you want to achieve some things this year, you have to have a path. You have to write down your goals. You have to have clarity on where you might want to go.
And as Nico was talking to us, 2024, yeah, we know it's the year to make money. We know it's getting easier and easier. But distractions, he said quote unquote, he's locking in this year because he knows there'll be more distractions, there'll be more propaganda, there'll be another thing to talk about in the news.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling you guys this. I think it was who was it? Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. They're in a room and they wrote down one word that was the most important factor to success, and they both said the same word: focus. Simple as that, focus. And you can interpret that in different ways, but I think there's always going to be distractions. You know, remember that guy we were interviewing? I was talking to him about some advice, and he said the most important thing is like to stay single and avoid the distractions, because he
Come on, dog.
avoid the distractions. It's Miami, bro.
Come on, dog.
Crazy. But
bunch of 304s out here. Shout out Myron.
Yeah, that's a good idea to kind of lead into the relationship topic.
Yeah.
Because a lot
Priorities.
of people, a very common perception that people have is that you should stay single when you're young and put all your focus into your business, your health, your career, and everything. What's your guys' kind of take on that?
I'll let you go first because you're the one with the girlfriend. I know you have
Yeah.
one as well, but maybe you'll start first.
Well, I mean, you gotta look like the most successful people have someone by their side, like a woman that's been by their side, supporting them this whole entire time. Like if you're by yourself, I mean, let's take it back to like preschool and kindergarten area, right? You know, you would hear this all the time, and it would be like, what good is money if you can't share it with anyone? Like, what good is money without love? You know, and I think a lot of people forget about that because we're at that like prime years to, you know, have fun. But how much does that mean? I mean, it's all pleasure, right? It's almost useless pleasure, because if you don't have that end goal of love in your mind, then it's quite literally wasting time.
And there will always be like a missing piece, and it's okay to wait. Let's just say if you want to lock in for a certain time, but there needs to be a point where you got to realize, you know, this is a key fundamental need for all of us as humans. You know, going to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Back in school we learned that. Before self-actualization, the top of, you know, reaching your fullest potential, there's love and belonging, and that's a partner. That's also a brotherhood of like-minded people coming together as men. So I think there'll always be a little missing piece of the puzzle if you're constantly waiting until you get to a point to fall in love, to meet that girl. So, I mean, it's tricky, though, like priorities, right? You always hear that with the Red Pill community of, you know, get your priorities straight, business number one, you are number one, and then everything comes after that. So what do you think, Josh?
Yeah, well, I think it's different for everyone. Obviously, like my perception, everyone at this table's perception might be different. But I feel like for the most part, if you're talking about a relationship taking away from what you're achieving in life, again, it's dependent on who you are. Some people, I would say, shouldn't be in a relationship and they should stay single because they can get distracted easily. And they don't have the confidence to set boundaries with their partner and say, hey, I need to get this stuff done so I can move forward in my life. And a lot of guys get stuck in relationships where they're truly not getting anything done because they're so distracted by their partner. However, I think having a good woman at your side is one of the most important things you can have in life. Like if you look at, like Landon said, all of the most successful people in the world, you see these people and they had a long-term relationship. They had the woman at their side, guiding them and supporting them.
Relationships, right? Like in Miami, a lot of attractive women here, and I understand the importance of a girlfriend. You know, I'm not gonna get into my personal life, but it's tough because the girls these days, it's getting harder and harder to find that girl that will 10x your business and 10x your life. You know, like walking around Miami, you know, we kind of feel like, you know, we say,
Come on, dog.
like that's what I'm thinking constantly when I see some girls here. But
Yeah, there's definitely a certain type down here, but I would say like we're all here because we found what do they call it, self-improvement, self-development, all that stuff. And I think it's interesting that a lot of the people in that space will neglect this side of things, because what a woman does is women teach you basically how to get in touch with another part of yourself, right? That without that, the puzzle's not complete without that piece, right? And so I think that you can't say that you've, you know, gotten to the peak of your self-development or self-improvement journey if you don't have that piece of the puzzle. If that part of you is still missing, if you haven't gotten in touch with that, and so that's something that I'm missing on my journey, right? Is that side of things, and so I'm not gonna be able to say that I've gotten to the top level that I want to be at without that, and I think that that's something that like Josh is saying, some people might not be cut out for that, right? I've seen a lot of guys in high school that, they get a girlfriend and then their grades start to slip and this and that because they're too distracted. Or even like some guy starts a business and then he finds this girl and then all of a sudden, the business starts to go down and it didn't reach its full potential, right? And so there's definitely those types, right? But at the end of the day, that's just part of knowing yourself. If you don't know that, you have to know that if you get a girlfriend, it's going to be a distraction for you and you're not going to be able to achieve what you want to achieve, right? Mm-hmm. But like Landon and like Josh, they know that they can achieve their goals that they want to achieve with the girlfriend by their side, right?
I think it's discipline.
Yeah.
I think that's really what it boils down to, right? The guys who aren't disciplined are just not going to be disciplined. That's why their grades slip. That's why all this stuff happens, right? But a guy who's disciplined, no matter if he has a girlfriend, no matter if he's got soccer practice or football practice every single night, he's still going to get them good grades. So I think, that's a lot of people what they have in their mind is that, getting a girlfriend's going to waste time. Like, even my roommate, he's super cool, man, but he was on this chapter where he's like, I'm going to be so successful because I don't have to deal with any drama or going on any dates. Like, I have all this time to myself, right? And he started his, what he's doing. And at this time in his life, he has realized that, I am going to go on a few dates. Like, I just want to, see what's out there, right? And now he's talking to an awesome girl that cares about his, life and his projection. Jared was saying this the other day, guys look at a woman's past and a woman looks at a guy's future. If you have no future, you can't be surprised if she leaves you, bro. So that's the factor of keeping a long-term relationship.
For sure. And I feel like a big part of relationships and comparing staying single and focusing fully on yourself versus being in a relationship, it's all about your allocation of energy. And a lot of people like to say that being in a relationship can be a bigger distraction. But in my opinion, I think a bigger distraction is going on dates with new girls every weekend or going out to the club and trying to find something, I feel like that takes away from it. But when you're secure and you're settled, it can accelerate your consistency and your efficiency, but also to kind of tie into that common perspective of like a red pill, with focusing on yourself throughout your 20s and then later on, once you're an established, successful man, to then go find a girl. I think the problem with that a lot of times is the girl you find. If you become successful and you become a millionaire and you're jacked and everything, and then you go to find a girl, you could be 99% sure, but you can never be 100% sure that woman loves you, not for your money. Yeah. And when you find a girl that will be with you when you're broke or at the start of your journey, that will be the most satisfying thing ever when she opens the door to your Ferrari, and she's sitting there with you. And that is like what you were talking about, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of love being on the top. That will be the best feeling ever, is to spoil the one that was with you from the beginning. And a lot of guys don't have that because they were just too focused on themselves, and then who knows, maybe they have a gold digger at their side, and I feel like that sucks, and a lot of guys are going to get into that trap.
I think environment starts with the fundamentals, right? The fundamentals being take care of yourself, do skincare, always be clean, always smell good. If you're going out somewhere, dress nice, be presentable in every aspect of your life. When you come home, don't go get McDonald's or Burger King just because it's fast. Go home or go to Whole Foods, get you some actual good food, get you some water that's in a glass, like a spring water that's in a glass bottle, and that will change your whole entire way of life. And that is literally where it starts. It's the fundamentals. A lot of these guys, start it, fall off, start it and fall off. That doesn't do any good. Consistency is the key to success in any realm. Consistency is the word.
So following up on environment, I want to know, what is this, your first 2 times being in Miami? Your first times being in Miami? Or you've been to Miami before?
I was here briefly. I went to a Miami Heat game, drove down from Palm Beach like 5 years ago or something. But I was in and out of the city, so yeah, this is my first time.
Yeah, I mean,
here.
even though you're a local, and I'm sure you've been to Miami before, I've been to Miami before, these times are very different than with family, than with other friends. And I want to know for you guys, we always hear the word environment and how the sayings, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around, your network is your net worth. Why do you guys think environment is everything, especially at this stage in your journey, whether you live in your hometown still, you moved out, I know you moved out, I'm still living at home right now. Why is it so important to get to the next level?
One of the first things I noticed coming down to Miami when I first got here is it really opens your eyes to the amount of wealth and opportunity that is out there, because when I'm back home in Canada, you don't see Ferraris, you don't see McLarens, you don't see Lamborghinis, you don't see these crazy mansions and these yachts, and it opens your back in to the mindset thing. It's like you think that there might not be enough for everyone, and why should it be me that gets all this money and whatnot? But when you're in a place like Miami, surrounded by wealth, you really open your eyes to the opportunity that's out there and the true abundance of money that actually exists in the world. So that was one of the main things that I noticed when I first got here.
Yeah, one of my main takeaways is as soon as I got here and as soon as I met all the boys, it's just it instantly clicked. It wasn't there wasn't really any, there was a slight awkwardness because we hadn't met, but it didn't really, it felt natural, the relationship. It didn't seem forced at all. And then just being around, with the meditations and the push-ups, it's you can't just sit out and not participate.
100%. Landon, I want to know for you, so you moved out of your hometown, I think pretty recently, right?
I actually didn't move out of my
or
hometown.
Moved out of your house.
Yeah, just moved out of my house. So, boom, I turned 18, right? It was already 4 to 5 months of just trying drop shipping stores, maybe making, I think the first one made $150, second one made $200, third one made $450, and all those ones I kind of gave up on. I was thinking, the one step that I missed and all the drop shipping stores is running paid ads, right? And I realized being at my house, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up in a nice house with a really nice family, and could pretty much have anything when it comes to food, or a little bit of money to go out and hang out with friends, right? And I felt like I was too comfortable to be able to make something out of myself, right? I hated always being in school and guys silver spoon, or saying you
daddy's
just got
money,
daddy's money, rich family and stuff like that. But it's dude, I don't like that. I want to be self-made. I moved out, right? After a bunch of spots, found a good spot to plant my feet down, and the first 3 to 4 months I had to sell everything that I owned, from shoes to clothes to mowing the neighbor's lawn for $20, took 3 hours, to splitting logs for 4 hours, only made $10. That guy was a piece of shit. But other than that, dude, I was doing literally everything because I didn't have a job. I knew that since working a job before, what really happens is you get caught where work is your entire life. And my buddies are in that right now. When you go to work at 3, you leave at 12 at night. Then you sleep in till 12 or 1 o'clock, and then all you do is have time to eat and then go back to work. So that work cycle is your whole entire life. I was I'm gonna do every single thing besides working. And when I started doing that, I started realizing oh shoot, I just have to put all my time into this online business, right? So I had a deal with my buddy. We're yo, I'm going to stay here at the house, right? And you go get a 9-to-5 job and bring in money so we can do the paid ads. And that's what we did the first 3 months, maybe sold some to our family members and stuff, got a bunch of inventory in. And then boom, 4th month, we hit $3,500. from running ads. Of course, we almost broke even. It was like 1.6x ROAS, nothing too crazy. And then as months go on and on, I started getting better at ad targeting, started getting better at the creatives I was doing, started an organic page, started hitting up ambassadors and influencers, all my buddies in that space, and just got, content, consistency, running ads. And then, we did have those 10, 12, $1,000 months, and once you see that, you understand, it does take your all, and sometimes you do have to be in an uncomfortable situation to make something out of yourself.
That self-applied pressure,
Yeah.
Same thing with me. I always tell people that whether you grew up in a super wealthy family or just middle class, like most people, it's almost like detrimental to success. I know it's crazy. It's very bold to say that, but I'm sure, Josh, you relate to this. We both went to the same school, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we talked about this actually on the first podcast we did, and you were saying how it's actually an advantage, you could say, to come from lower income and kind of start at the bottom. And I resonate with what Landon said, is because I kind of grew up middle class and my parents had money and to be able to feed me and do lots of things and have opportunities. But for me, how I feel right now is like my parents live in a nice house and I still live with them. But if you're in a lower income, or if you grew up in Compton or something, the only way you can go is up, as long as you obviously go towards something. However, for me, to one day get a house that's nicer than where my parents live, it's going to be very difficult to not have your life go like this and your quality of living going down, because you really have, like, if you're a motivated person and you want to get somewhere in life, you have to get to a higher point than where your parents are at, and that is a way more difficult thing to do.
you have to eat shit for a little bit,
Yep.
A good saying that goes, you either do things out of desperation or inspiration. And for a lot of us, there's out of inspiration. If I didn't pursue this route, okay, I'd be in school, graduating soon, getting a pretty comfortable job, etc. So that's why, for me, I couldn't go down this, not hating on it, but the side hustle route of something online and not having any fulfillment. I knew it had to be something more intrinsic to keep me consistent, to allow me to get to the next level inevitably. And I think one guy that, I don't mean to watch his stuff, but I did listen to him, Mr. Beast, he's very inspiring, because his mindset about money, about just making the biggest impact, has allowed me to funnel that into IRL.
Yeah, man, and that middle class conversation is very interesting, because that middle class was a very specific point in time where that was possible, where right now it's way harder to do what your parents did, right? To be just working, I assume, regular 9-to-5 job, right? They're not entrepreneurs.
Yeah, no, just regular jobs.
Yeah, they don't start their own business or anything, right? To just do regular 9-to-5 and get the same house that they probably bought, I don't know when, but to do that now is a lot harder, right? Because, you'll see the news where you'll see hedge funds buying up single family homes, right? Or out competing just normal families for those homes, right? Mm-hmm. You'll see the inflation headlines. You'll see all this, right? It's so much harder now going through college, getting the same degree that his dad probably got 20, however many years ago, to do the same path that his dad took or his mom took, and achieve the same thing that they achieved in a modern day is much harder. Because, my grandma, right, she lives on a pension, right, from my grandfather, who worked at Delta, right? They came here, Cuban immigrants, no English, no money. He worked at Delta his whole life as, the guy who checks you in at the gate. That's not a high-paying job, right? That's not, you don't go to college. That's just a normal job, and most of the time it's an immigrant job, right? And he put 2 daughters through school, right, through college. They both graduated. He bought a house in Miami. Think about that. That's impossible today. Impossible. His wife, my grandmother, he passed away before I was born, but she's living off his Delta pension. That's not possible. I firmly believe that when we're old, it won't be possible to live off a pension. Pensions might not even exist, right? So it puts even more, I don't know if the right word is pressure, but that's just the reality we live in. Mm-hmm. You can't live like that anymore. And so I can relate to her in some respects, right? But it's hard for me. I don't want to say like, oh, well, that's not possible anymore. Like you got lucky or whatever, but she didn't get lucky. She worked hard and this and that, right? That's not taking anything away from their journey, but it's just not really feasible anymore. That's just the sad reality of how it is. So that's part of the reason why I was inspired to kind of go on the journey that I have so far.
And I love that you have like a real estate perspective on that, or political perspective, because you're in that industry and you can provide insight in that. I can't as much as you can. And tying that into IRL, it's like, it's so cool that each person's doing something different. Yeah, there's some guys that are all doing copywriting, agency business model, etc. But when you're in IRL, whether it's in person or online, you know a guy for everything. Maybe not yet in terms of like every single business model, but that's going to be inevitable, where if you need help with your taxes, something like super niche, something very specific, you have a guy to go to, and you have a guy that could just help you out, that maybe it'll save you time, energy, money, etc. Like the benefits are just insane when you could think about it from that perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And also think about like people you meet that aren't inside of IRL, right? And you know, they're looking to do something. Oh, that's dope. Let me connect you with this guy that I'm friends with, and he happens to be in IRL, right? And then you know, they connect, and then all three of you guys are, you know, are doing good, and then that guy, the outside guy, connects you with somebody else, you know, or asks you, you know, like, you know, what is this guy? You direct them back to me. Like, it's crazy the connections and the value that it has.
For sure. I like what Lucas had said about how it kind of fueled your journey to kind of pursue something, realizing that how much more difficult the traditional path is now. And that kind of resonated with me, because if I were to stick with going on the path that my degree would get me at the end of this year, and I think I was talking about it in the car on the way here too with you, it's like compared to 40 years ago, 20 years ago even, to get a house and live a decent life and actually go places and have opportunities, you're going to need a lot more money now. And if I were to stay down this path and just go for a regular job, even if I make $100K a year, even if I make $150K a year, it's going to take way longer to get a house. It's going to take way longer to actually have spending money. And it's what fueled my entrepreneurial journey to want to make big money. And I feel like this is the path for me.
Yeah. There's two huge things, like from both of y'all's perspective, is the internet only came out so long ago, right? Let's say, you know, we all get degrees and we all go into the workforce, and in 20 years, who's going to be more successful? All of us, or the idiots pumping out content on social media all the time, every single day, all year for 20 years? Obviously that guy. And you're going to be wondering why that guy has 5 Lamborghinis in his freaking mansion, in front of his mansion. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I think it's all designed. The system is designed where if you are going to get to that point of this high earner, it's not until you're near the twilight of your deathbed. You know what I mean? It's when you're 60 plus, right? Invest in the stock market, right? You're not going to make a lot of money from only investing into it. And if you do, it wouldn't happen until you're at this point where you don't even know what to do with your money. And I think that's a key thing that's missing, is wealth is supposed to be experienced in your youth. And there's a good book, Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. I think you've read that as well.
Yeah, bits and pieces.
Yeah, it just talks about how to get to that point earlier, and how, like, who cares to make money when they're older? You know, money is supposed to be spent. Money is supposed to be earned and used towards experiences just like this one. And when you have that mindset shift, almost of this like urgency you were talking about earlier, or the balance of urgency and patience, which we talked about, I think a couple of days ago, that balance is super important, because you don't know what the world is going to look like this year, next year, right? So many things have happened that I'm not going to, you know, get into. And it's important just to start now and tune out the outside world.
For sure. Yeah, and we were talking about it on the way here too, like just the desire to have money while you're young, because everyone always tells you the dream that, oh, you can be a millionaire or multi-millionaire by 40 if you just put a couple $100 into your Roth IRA or your S&P 500 and you buy a property and it's going to go up in value. Yeah, that's great and all, and anyone that's going down that path, kudos to you, because it's better than not being a millionaire at 40, you know? But I feel like what makes money valuable is being able to have the benefits of it for as long as you possibly can, and that's why I desire to get rich while I'm in my 20s, you know, because I feel like having money as a young kid it's the best way to spend it, you know.
Yeah.
And also the goal of being wealthy and not rich,
Mhm.
right? Wealth is generational. It's if you're rich expires, wealth doesn't, because wealth gets passed down through generations. If you're rich, yeah, you get to spoil your girlfriend, your family, etc. But then they're gonna have kids, and then what? Then it's just like they got to start from ground zero again. So I think was it Patrick Bet David or one of these guys was saying how when his father passed away, maybe it was Justin Waller, I don't know who it was, but he was saying that when his father passed away, the money kind of just expired because now it's like who's paying the bills? There's nothing to fall back on.
Yeah, and wealth is passive as well. So like, don't think of wealth as like you're this huge earner because think about NBA players or football guys who make what 3-4 million off a deal, get their advance, and then after taxes they've already spent over half of it, and now they're back in debt. So like, wealth is passive income. Is the income where you're sitting right here and you're every minute you're getting $1,000, right? And that's how these super wealthy guys like are able to be so wealthy. You guys have obviously heard the saying, your money is supposed to work for you, right? It's supposed to be passive. And there's only a few like places that you can actually earn passive income, and I would say that's probably real estate and investing into either businesses or the stock market, right? I also wanted to touch on something else about when we were talking about like feeling the pressure to go out and do something, especially being like from a middle class or being comfortable, like going from a place of comfort to uncomfort, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of people have seen this one, but it's like easy times create weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men, right? So I grew up easy and weak, right? Made my life hard, totally changed it. So now I'm at that point where I'm trying to, be the strongest, smartest, and wisest guy.
And let me ask you a question to all you guys. What cycle are we in society right now between that sentence you said? Are we in strong men, weak men, easy times? What do you guys think?
I think it's a mix of both, definitely, because you like to look at like the general society and think it's just a bunch of weak men out there, but then you look at guys like us, like I never would have known you guys existed because you're just from all over the world and we're in different places and couldn't connect with each other. But yeah, like I feel like I have faith in this generation because when you look at like the entrepreneurial space and like self-improvement as a whole has just blown up the last couple of years, and like people are like it's becoming trendy to be disciplined and to like work on yourself and stay focused and pursue something. So I think it's going in a good direction, but I feel like there's still a lot of work we need to do.
I think we are the strong men that are being built to recover from the weak men that have created this. There's no reason really for like, I don't know if that's true, but there's less reason for the whole big self-improvement red pill space. Those spaces don't come about in an easy time, really. They come about because an easy time is ending, and the easy time is ending, and there's so many weak people that strong people need to be built up to create the newer easy times, and then the cycle restarts.
Which is why it's the easiest it's ever been, you could argue, to get to that point, right? This polarity of everybody going one way and this community of these kinds of people in the self-improvement space going a complete other way. And once you have this mindset shift, like Sneeko said, it's the easiest it's ever been to become successful.
Less competition.
And more opportunity. What we were talking about earlier about the internet as a whole, like, and while we're saying it's definitely difficult in this era to become successful and get a house one day, for example. It's also could arguably be easier because of social media and the internet, and we can find so many opportunities just from our phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Making money from your phone, traveling.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about here at IRL. I think we're going to...
Yes, sir.
One more thing. So, like, when Josh said it's almost like trendy to be in this space, to be disciplined, to be all that stuff, I really resonate with that because, it's such a positive force for the world, right? I was flying to Brazil last month, and, all in the airport to all these people that didn't know me, I was like, I had stuff to do all the time. So I was in the airport at my computer doing designs, working on my website. I wanted everyone to see, like, lead by example, but I wanted that for myself because that's how I wanted to see myself as, right? Instead of that guy, like every other person in the airport, sitting there watching something on their phone, waiting for their plane, right? Or like waking up, like say you spend the night at your buddy's house, or like you're out somewhere, like waking up in the morning on your computer, do a meditation sesh, like that should be the idea that you want to see yourself becoming, right? And so turn the idea into reality.
Very true. I feel like it's so common nowadays too with like certain things, like for example the gym. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but maybe this is just my perspective, but I feel like the last like few years so much more people have started going to the gym, and and that's like health and fitness is one of the primary aspects of self-improvement and just getting better overall as a person. And like it's honestly, even back home, like it's rare to find somebody that isn't going to the gym or at least exercising in some sort of way, and that's nothing but good for building the next generation, in my opinion.
Very true, and we got to lead by example, bro. We're just
Yes, sir.
we're one of the, I don't want to honestly consider ourselves in the 1%, not financially, just in terms of where we are in our journey of like how we see things, how we see the world. I think,
Or in our generation.
yeah,
To an
within
extent,
our
not
generation,
wealth-wise, but yeah, like you said, mindset,
yeah,
mind frame-wise, yeah.
and like the saying, light attracts light. I think the more we do this, the more other people we're going to inspire and attract. I think that's a very important thing, because right now I'm focusing on the people that are already there, I guess, that understand what we're talking about. But as this journey goes on, I already know I've experienced this where I'm inspiring a lot of people that haven't seen this, like haven't understood what I'm talking about, like hometown people hitting me up being like, yo, what are you doing here? I'm sure you guys experienced this, being like, yo, put me on that, or talk to me more about this. And it's very interesting to see like that domino effect of what you're doing, what you're putting out into the universe, into the ether.
That what you're putting out, interactions and leading by example, is like, what other purpose do you have, right? Like that should be everyone's purpose, is to be a positive impact on the world, right? Through every single interaction you have, also via everything you do, to be looked up to as example.
Yes, a quote that works great for that is by Gandhi. He says, be the change you want to see in the world. And I believe if you follow that, that is the only path to ever being fulfilled. Like if you are constantly doing something in your life that is creating a change that you want to see, no matter if you're making $5 an hour or $500 an hour, if you're creating change that is positive and it means something, then that's the true secret to being fulfilled, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. And lastly, before we wrap up, I just want to say this on the podcast to you boys. Some new members. We got Landon here, new member. Ryan, new member. Lucas and Josh have been OG members in here since we first launched the community September 1st. And beginning of 2024, I think it's super important that you're taking a risk, what we talked about, taking actions. I had so many guys in the community or outside that wanted to join, wanted to be a part of it, but they never took the risk. And I think you guys sitting by my side here today, it signifies the kind of person you guys all are to your core. And I just want to say I appreciate you boys for coming out here and being a part of this experience.
We appreciate you, man. Thanks for
big,
setting this all up.
Big thanks to you, Jared. It wouldn't be possible if you didn't put this all together. So
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
man.
Appreciate it. And beginning of 2024, it's only fitting that it's the first week here, and it's a big year coming up for all of us and all our journeys. And after this podcast, we're actually heading over to a dinner, and we're going to be talking about our goals for the year of who we want to be January 2025. A year from now, what kind of person do we want to be internally, externally, etc. So I think I'm excited to be able to look back on this podcast right here, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. That's the beauty of YouTube. It just stays on there forever.
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people will be looking back at this in the future, seeing how far all of us have came individually, but also collectively. It's going to be special. And yeah, big things coming for IRL. It's our 3rd official meetup. I've talked to you boys about future spots for the next ones down the year. I'm not going to mention it here. But, I want to say that if you want to join IRL and be a part of this, we just closed doors for our second launch, but we're going to do different launches as the year goes on. So feel free to check out our Instagram at the IRL Experience, YouTube at the IRL Experience, to be able to be in the loop and possibly join one of these meetups and be a part of this. And we talked about the meetup, but the reality is you're never going to understand what it is until you're here, until you actually experience it, the energy, the emotions. So all I got to say is that continue to work on yourself this new year, guys, and stay true to yourself. But yeah, other than that, guys,
IRL
on to
Miami,
next
boys.
podcast. IRL Miami,
Fire pod, baby.
right here, officially coming to an end. Many more podcasts to come with amazing guests. Stay tuned, guys. Stay blessed, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.